So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and Apple released iPadOS 15.4 Beta 5 a couple days ago. We've been using it every single day since then on the M1 iPad Pro. I'm rocking the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro baseline model, just so everybody knows, but I kind of wanted to go over some of the new features that we found along those days that we've been using this new beta update, talk about when to expect a public release, and then also talk about what Apple's going to do with this new March event, because now we have a solid date of March 8th, which is probably when Apple is going to release the RC build, and then finally March 15th is when I think they're going to release it to the entire public once they announce all their new hardware products that are going to come out. So without further ado, let's talk about first iPadOS 15.4 Beta 5 and then Apple's March event. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's jump right into this video, everybody. I'm going to pull up the iPad screen right here so we can get to see exactly what's going on. Let's go into the settings first, talk about the actual build number. So again, this is an A iteration, so we're on 19E5241 lowercase a, which means on March 8th, probably after the event, we're going to get some over-the-air updates to get that RC edition, and then finally March 15th, we're going to get that public release to everybody, and then March 18th is when everything's going to be delivered in terms of those new hardware products, which we're going to touch on the end of the video. And then in terms of what's new with this specific beta, the only new thing that we did notice was inside of the settings, inside of general, if you go into the About section and then go to Limited Warranty, you now have a new card to help you download that Apple Support application. So in the previous betas, this little Apple Support section right here to download that application was not there. So they added it in there. So schedule a visit at the Apple Store or an Apple authorized service provider, call or chat with an advisor, troubleshoot issues, and more. So I actually personally really like the Apple Support application. I usually just download it whenever I do have an issue. And the Apple Support application is actually really, really well done. It's easy to communicate with whatever you need. You know, if you have a broken AirPod or a broken iPhone or whatever the case may be, any Apple product, just go through that support app, and I highly recommend it because it's the easiest way to get in contact with Apple unless it's one of those iMessage support things, which also is great. But I'm glad that Apple threw this on here, and you can see that for me personally, I'm covered for a little while. But that's really the only tangible difference with this specific beta. But overall, with this 15.4 update, I want to let you guys know what to expect if you are going to just wait for the public release. So the main thing on the iPad side is universal control. It's been talked about for a very long time. Apple first showed it off in WWDC back in June of 2021. Everybody was wowed, and universal control has been absolutely amazing. I'm very excited for it to come out in a public release so everybody can demo it, everybody can try it and see just how powerful it is, because it's really going to change the way that my desk is fully set up. And then once it does get released to the public, be on the lookout for a video of my universal control based setup, because I use my iPad Pro to control pretty much everything when it comes to my universal control setup. Some other things to take note of with this new update is that we're going to get, I think, 33 new emojis inside of both iOS and iPadOS. You can see right here on the screen, I already have a couple of them right there. So you have like the dotted guy, you have the salute, you have the melting face, and there's another 27 or 30 that are going to be available for everybody to use. And I know people really like their emojis to help express themselves without words. So that's going to be new with this update. And then also with Siri, we actually get a new Siri voice. So if we go down to Siri and search, if we go into Siri voices, you now have a fifth American voice, and that's supposed to be a gender neutral voice, which Apple wanted to incorporate, which I'm all for. So having that in the American section for voice 5 is that gender neutral voice, which again, Apple did release and did say like, hey, we want to be as inclusive as possible. So that's why they added it. I do wish they added that same idea throughout all the different regions of Siri voices, but for now, it's just on the American voice, and it's American voice 5. And then lastly, the big update with iPadOS 15.4 and iOS 15.4 is the Find My and AirTags in those new AirTag prompts. So every time you get a new AirTag moving forward, you're gonna have to agree to a prompt that says, hey, you're supposed to be using these AirTags just for your own personal items and not to go out and track other people or track other people's items. It's meant to be used just for your own lost and stolen items, and otherwise it's a crime to be using it for anything else. So Apple's now giving people that prompt. You have to agree to it so that Apple is not liable if something does happen, when it does come to tracking people down and things like that. Because, I don't know, you've been hearing a lot about that in the news, and Apple really wants to get on top of that to make sure that they're providing a safe environment to use these AirTags. And then the last few things I do want to go over is overall performance. So again, I'm going to keep reiterating that performance on the iPad Pro has been very, very good. There's been zero lapse in terms of data corruption. I haven't lost anything. I'm still editing everything in LumaFusion, which is my main device. Because this iPad Pro is my main device and I'm still putting it through the beta program. So if you guys want to jump on it 2 weeks early, by all means, I do recommend it, especially if you have maybe a secondary iPad, an older iPad, because this goes all the way back to, I believe, the iPad Air 2 or iPad Air 3, to the iPad 6 generation. So this iPadOS update goes back very, very far, and you'll be able to use that universal control with even up to a 2016 MacBook Pro. So keep that in mind, or 2016 MacBook for that matter. And then lastly, let's talk about battery life. So if we go into settings, let's go into battery, see what we've been dealing with over the last 10 days. So we're doing about an hour and 50 minutes of screen on time. So let's go on a day like Wednesday, we got 2 hours and 12 minutes of screen on time, but that took up 125% of our battery, which isn't gonna cut it. On a day like Monday, we got 3 hours and 15 minutes, took up about 100% of our battery. On a day like Tuesday, a little bit better, 2 hours and 41 minutes, only took up about 25% battery. So on a day like that, we could have gotten maybe that 10 hours of battery life. But you can see that when I am having those good battery days, it's gonna be less intensive tasks. It's not gonna be much video editing, it's gonna be more video consumption, more content consumption, and things like that. So I'm hoping Apple gets us to like that 6 to 8 hours of battery life I'll even take at this point. But at this point, I don't even know what Apple's gonna do with the iPad Pro battery life. And now they have some competition with that S8 Ultra, which I'm hoping Apple now realizes that they need some sort of DeX type of environment on the iPad Pro. But that's gonna do it for the iPad Pro in this view. Let's get out of here and finalize this video and talk about the March 8th event that Apple's gonna hold, because we're gonna get some nice hardware, I think. So that's pretty much gonna do it for this video, everybody. Like you saw with this Beta 5 update, again, the farther we get into the beta updates, the less and less tangible differences you're gonna see. Apple's just kind of tightening up all the bug fixes, tightening up all the performance improvements, and trying to get as many of those issues resolved before that public release, which again, I'm gonna say is gonna be March 15th for the public release, because I'm assuming that with this Apple event on March 8th, but you know what happens when we assume. But with this March 8th Apple event, Apple's going to announce, the new iPhone SE, new iPad Air 5, which I think is going to be freaking awesome. If you guys do want to check out a video on what I think is going to happen to that iPad Air 5, it's going to be linked down in the description below. Definitely check it out. But then also they're going to release some new iMacs and some new M2 maybe MacBook Airs and things like that. So let's see exactly what Apple's got planned, but that's going to be on March 8th. Then those pre-orders are going to start coming on. When those pre-orders start to get delivered, those new iPhone SE 3s and the new iPad Air 5s are going to come pre-installed with iOS and iPadOS 15.4, the regular public version. But that's just my assumption. That's what I think Apple's gonna do in terms of timeline, in terms of when these updates are gonna come out, and also in terms of what hardware they're gonna release. I'm sure Apple's gonna talk about their green initiative that they've been doing, trying to go carbon neutral by I think it's 2030 or 2025, which is pretty optimistic, which I love to see. They're probably gonna talk about all their services, how much money they've made. They're probably gonna talk about some of the stuff that's happening around the world right now. But ultimately, they're probably gonna release those 3 main products. And then who knows, maybe some services alongside those products. But let's see what Apple does. And then hopefully we do get that one more thing situation, which they haven't done in a little while. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys did make it to the end, thank you so much. Leave a little dolphin if you did make it to the end, just so I know who you are. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out Paperlike to always keep your iPad Pro as protected as possible, or any iPad for that matter. And I know they have some new awesome cleaning products and other products for your iPads in the new Paperlike store. So definitely check them out, but don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, everybody, I'm excited. Leave some comments down below. What do you think Apple's gonna do during this event? But I'm out of here.